In the least shocking news of all time, the One Piece community this week was misled by fake spoilers. Again? Yes, you heard that right. Tons of people are mad at the One Piece leakers because of inaccuracies from the leaks and what actually happened in the chapters. And to that I say, we cannot get mad at the leakers. Be mad at yourself for using 4 poorly mistranslated lines to shape all of your thoughts on a 16 to 17 page chapter. LARPing is at an all-time high in the One Piece fanbase, and people are so thirsty to go viral that they are slandering One Piece based off misinformation and fake spoilers. If you're confused about what I'm referring to here, the leakers reported that somehow Luffy just pulled out some food from his pocket and ate it during the middle of the fight. And of course you got all your Disney piece stuff, oh Oda with this Mickey Mouse stuff, and the pre-time skip is better than the post-time skip, and this guy is falling off, and you know, the usual death threats we get whenever something we don't agree with happens in the chapter, because that's extremely normal, right? But in reality, the scene shows something that was a lot more interesting that we're gonna cover in this video. But first, of course, I cannot continue without acknowledging it. I know it has been 2 weeks since I've uploaded a video. School started, and if you don't know, I am a teacher and also a football coach, and this beginning of the school year was extremely busy for some strange reason compared to last year, and it really threw me off schedule. But I promise you, from this point forward, you're gonna get a video, at least one every week, but I'm gonna try to shoot for 2. I'm not promising you that, but I'm gonna try. Now, it's really weird to ask for it, but please leave a like and subscribe. I know after leaving for 2 weeks, it feels scummy to ask, but honestly, the support that I've been getting is what makes me carve time out of my schedule and come back to do this. Anyway, let's get to the chapter, because we're gonna talk about what I believe to be the most controversial thing that actually happened in the chapter. So outside of those fake leaks, Emu was talking about Gaban, and he said something so glorious to the Gaban agenda that words cannot describe how elated I was while reading this chapter. Emu said if he knew that the Pirate King's crew would have gotten this strong, well, he would have just went on ahead and eliminated them alongside rocks at God Valley. And this is post-production Crow checking in, and I just want to clarify that I am very aware that Emu said that he didn't think that Gaban and the crew would become as big of a nuisance as they did. But in this scenario, I think that we can clearly understand that it comes from the strength that Gaban is showcasing here. However, I wanted to clarify that because I know that One Piece fans love to be really particular with corrections on things you say. So there you have it. Yes, this is insane gas, and a lot of coping is going on. A lot of people trying to rewrite the story in his words and change the meaning and apply it to other stuff, because a lot of people are not comfortable with anything that upscales Sanji. This is really insane because he is the 3rd strongest person on Roger's crew and the god of the world from our understanding, at least so far. Probably not a real god, but that's what Gaban called in this chapter. The god of the world is seeing a close to 80-year-old version of this man and is giving him endless praise after just toying with a Yonko and somebody who the fan base, not me, pushed to be Pirate King level in Loki. Let's dive into this statement. Is this him saying he's equal to Roger? Well, I won't go that far quite yet, but this was some really amazing praise because it's putting Gaban on that same level of pedestal as Rocks when it comes to being a threat to Emu and what he represents. For him to recognize that he should have taken them out alongside Rocks makes it seem as if he believes that these guys are as much of a threat to my existence as Rocks was when he was at God Valley. Now, if he's saying this about the 3rd strongest person on Roger's crew, just imagine what he believes about Roger himself. It's finally time to let this whole Rocks was the real Pirate King agenda go. He's just been outclassed by time itself. He died. It's not his fault. If he stayed around, he would have probably stayed ahead of Roger. Roger probably would have caught him, if we're being honest, but he would have stayed in that tier of character for the longest, but he didn't. It's fine. Now, he also called them brats at God Valley, which of course they weren't exactly kids, and everyone is going to be a brat to you if you're 800 years old and immortal. But I do think that leads into the ideal that they really weren't in their primes at God Valley, and people are saying the same thing about Rocks. But yeah, Rocks may have not gotten to his absolute peak that he could have reached, but that was his peak that he could have reached because he died right there. So let's stop using a hypothetical prime to try to power scale Rocks that never happened. I think this does a really good job at putting in perspective the type of threat and the type of impact that Roger had on the pirating world as a whole and where his strength level really could have been, because I'm of the belief, and this may sound crazy, but let me cook a little bit. I think that Roger is closer to Joy Boy in strength than he is to the people that we compare him to. And that's not me saying that I think Roger is closer to Goy Boy. That's not me saying I think Roger is closer to Joy Boy. That's just me saying I think he's that much stronger than the people that we're constantly comparing him to. But of course, any upscale for Gaban is an upscale for Roger and Rayleigh, so we should take that tax and apply it to him as well. And by extension, of course, it's a Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy upscale. Why wouldn't it be? But Sanji in particular, because he needed this more than anybody. We knew who Zoro and Luffy would be end of series, but Sanji needed some clarifying. Not to me, but to a lot of people. And if this hasn't done it for you, then it's not going to happen because you don't want it to. Now, of course, there's been a ton of cope about this. Oh, Emu's not gassing him up. He's gassing up the old generation. Oh, Rocks didn't reach his prime. Oh, Gaban hasn't even done anything impressive to Emu. Well, listen, if Emu was talking about the old generation in general, then he would have said their names. They were all there. Big Mom, Kaido, Whitebeard, even though Whitebeard does kind of get gassed by this. But you get understand. These people were there. Shiki, they were all there. If he wanted to say, if I knew all of you guys would be this much of a problem, then I would have killed you guys alongside Rocks, then he would have said that. But he specified the Roger Pirates in particular, and you can say that's because he's fighting Gaban, but it's also because of the showcase that Gaban is putting out. And I would argue that a lot of those guys y'all trying to throw ahead of Gaban would not perform like this against Emu, especially at an old age. See, what's really going on here is we jumped the ship, not we, but a lot of us jumped ship and started gassing up Rocks so much when he got his amazing flashback during the God Valley arc, and it made people turn their backs on the Roger Pirates and Roger. Instead, we should understand that Roger has not had his flashback yet, so we don't know the true potential. We're not going to know what Roger peaks truly look like until we get that. So don't jump ship. Understand that he is the Pirate King. And honestly, we should put him in a different tier than we do a lot of these other people, because while we know that Luffy is to be the next Joy Boy, in Luffy's eyes, it's Roger he wants to surpass. You can say Luffy is ignorant about what he really is going to become, and that is very true, but Luffy wants to surpass Goldie Roger. That is the person that he sees as the pinnacle of piracy, and I don't think the fan base as a whole respects Roger enough in light of this. I say in light of this, I don't think that's the right phrase there, but whatever. Sometimes we dig so deep for meaning in things that don't agree with our agendas that we start trying to rewrite the story instead of just realizing that, hey, maybe I was wrong, all right? Let's just admit it. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. You just learn from your mistakes, but that's the problem. We don't learn from when we're wrong because we can never admit we're wrong, and it just snowballs. Then you wind up getting guys saying stuff like the admirals are stronger than the Yoko. Now let's talk about Luffy and the shocking development that he didn't go to Popeyes in the middle of a fight against Emu and order him a 5-piece dark, crispy, spicy, I guess, and eat it right in the middle of the fight and just kill all the tension. Gaban is literally on death's door, and we're just thinking Luffy is going to just pull out some food and eat it right there in Emu's face. Sometimes we just got to be able to call BS. And I don't think this was a case of the leakers trying to be dishonest. We got to understand that they're not exactly getting perfect information either. So they're just doing what they can with what they get. Like I said, the problem is it's a multi-tiered issue in my opinion. You got one side of the people that just are waiting to shit on One Piece for any reason at all, right? So as soon as they see something, even if it's in some leaks that are kind of questionable, they're gonna take it, they're gonna run with it. That's why you saw a bunch of viral tweets about Oda being washed because they thought Luffy ate in the middle of this fight. Even if it's not really that big of a deal if that is what happened. That's the funny part, but whatever. Anyway, let's keep going. Then you have another tier of people that I do think are One Piece fans, but they don't really properly digest the story because they let leaks shape their opinion of chapters so heavily before we even get the chapter full text spoilers. We got 4 lines of text coming out on Tuesdays or Mondays, and people already have their minds made up like, yeah, I know what's going on. I'm not going to read a chapter. There's a fundamental problem there. And it really starts to show in the way that some of these people discuss these chapters that they have no idea what's going on because they don't read the chapters. They read Pew's latest tweet or worse, Gen HQ's latest tweet. They don't know what actually goes on in the chapters. They're just reading spoilers. We saw it in the Jujutsu Kaisen families where they would kind of drip feed the leaks. They would just do every panel, everything that happened over the course of a night. And everyone is talking about it. But in reality, the chapter would drop and it would be like, bruh, we got misled, we got tricked. No, you didn't get tricked. Well, you did get tricked, but it's not their job to be honest. It's their job to get interactions and clicks, and they're doing an amazing job at doing that. So let's not let these people fool us. But what do I think this means for Luffy? I think that in reality, what happened was Luffy looked full all of a sudden. I think he imagined the food that he ate, and subconsciously, I'm not gonna say he warped reality because I think that's a really different thing. It's like he manifested fullness in his body and it helped him at least get an attack off. And that's really interesting. We're talking about Luffy having Toon Force and being able to just create stuff out of nothing. Then this is kind of like him entering the doorway for it. I don't know when he would be able to fully grasp it. Maybe as if he has a hybrid form that he hasn't tapped into yet, where he can better balance the powers alongside his own personality. I don't think Luffy is fully healed at all because he still looks really better. I know the blood isn't just going to disappear, but if you can warp reality to create food, then surely you can get rid of your wounds too, right? It's really interesting to me. I don't know where Oda is going to go with this Luffy stuff. I do believe reality warping is to come in the future, but I think for now we're just getting crumbs, and Luffy has to understand that that is his power. We saw that stuff at Egghead, but I'm taking it with a grain of salt because sometimes the animators just get a little bit out of their body and add extra stuff, like the stuff with King versus Zoro, right? King was looking like Sephiroth in that fight, but in the manga it was nothing like that. So I think that he definitely is going to have Toon Force and be able to warp reality and create stuff out of nothing. And what just happened in this chapter was just a small glimpse into it, or at least just manifest stuff. Maybe not Toon Force, because that's really vague. I want to say he has the ability to manifest things or create things and imagine them. I don't know, something like that. I wonder what Chopper's conversation with Biblo is implying here. Maybe he couldn't understand Biblo because he's not really an animal. But that doesn't make sense because Chopper can also understand humans. So this could be an ancient language that he can't understand. Who knows? I'm not sure. We'll see about that. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I want to see how that unfolds. There was also a lot from the leakers about there being a Zoro versus Summers scene in this chapter that we never saw. And even when the chapter came out, they're like, oh, it's missing pages. Like, no, y'all just lied. That didn't happen. Like, what is going on with these guys? That's why we cannot let these people dictate how we enjoy these chapters. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here because I do got to get to the gym and got some stuff going on. And I'm still really busy, but like I said, I'm going to try my best to be a lot more consistent for y'all because I owe it to y'all. Y'all showed me a lot of support over the summer. I think I went from like 300 to 800 over the course of the summer. I need to get to 1,000 because in February, YouTube is upping them guidelines for your to need to get partnered. And 1,700, I think it was 1,700 subscribers. That's crazy. Why we do? Let's go ahead and like and subscribe so I can go ahead and get partnered because if you get it before that, you good. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all for supporting me. And I promise you, I will try to make up the absence to y'all in whatever way I can possibly. Probably some live streams. Peace out. Enjoy your day.